Hi, I'm Daniel Findling with thedivorceguy.com and Findling Law, and I'm starting a new blog series right now, a video blog on the seminal cases in Michigan divorce law. When people come to my office, one of the most important questions that are asked is, well, what am I going to get? What am I going to receive? So this blog, I thought I'd talk to you about the case of Sparks versus Sparks. Sparks versus Sparks was decided by the Michigan Supreme Court in 1992, and it is the seminal case on how we divide property in a divorce. And maybe we should take a step back. When we consider the property that is divided, in other words, what property you divide, we look at all of the property that was either obtained or increased in value during the course of the marriage. So then we put all of that property in a pot, and we say, okay, as a general proposition, we describe that as marital property. Now, what happened in the Sparks case was quite interesting. The court understood what the marital property was, but in this case, in a 26-year marriage, the wife had an affair. She was unemployed, but there was no question that she was engaged in sexual infidelity. Now, many people and some lawyers think that just because Michigan is a no-fault divorce case, that means that fault is not relevant or won't play a role in property division. That could not be further from the truth. Property division and fault are interrelated. The no-fault statute generally applies to the breakdown of the marriage. If the breakdown of the marriage was caused by someone's actions, you don't need to allege that in the complaint for divorce. But that breakdown, that fault, is relevant in the award of property division, in the award of alimony, and sometimes even in child custody case. So Michigan is a fault state. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the Sparks case, the trial court ordered that the wife's fault, her extramarital sexual contacts, her affair, was the cause of the breakdown of the marriage relationship and justified an inequitable and unfair award of property. In fact, the trial court awarded 75% of the marital estate to the husband and 25% to the wife, with no considerations of alimony, notwithstanding the notion that the wife made no money, a 26-year marriage, and the husband earned excess of $45,000, $50,000 per year. Now, Michigan law is steadfast in that there are multiple factors that a court has to take into consideration when dividing property in a divorce, including the length of the marriage, the contributions of the parties, the age of the parties, the health of the parties, the life status of the parties, the necessity and circumstances of the parties, their earning abilities of the parties, the past relations and conduct of the parties, fault, and general principles of equity and fairness. Now, what the Sparks case said, what the Michigan Supreme Court said, is that any factor relating to the needs of the parties or the value of assets must be considered in evaluating a property award. They need not consider every factor, but if it deals with value or it deals with the if it deals with value or if it deals with the needs of the parties, it must be considered. And the Michigan Supreme Court also said you cannot place too much weight on one factor. So what did the Supreme Court do in this case? It directed the trial court to re-examine these factors. It said, trial court, you placed way too much weight on the fault factor, a 25% penalty without taking into consideration the other factors relating to the needs of the parties was wrong. So, in dividing property division in Michigan, in a divorce, what's relevant? Certainly the needs of the parties, the value of the assets, and you can also consider fault and the other factors that I just identified, but you cannot place too much weight on one factor. You have to take everything into consideration. Now, many lawyers will tell you, we are going to divide property equally. In many cases, that's true. But it's not true, because what Sparks teaches us is that we are an equitable division state. It is fairness, taking into account all of the parties' circumstances. I hope this provides you a little bit more insight into divorce, property law, and how property is divided. Thanks for your time.